everybody today?
Fine.
Alright, so today we are going to be making a crispy sesame ginger tofu over sauteed kale, peppers, and onions. So the first step of our recipe I had to do off camera today because it was about a hour and 10-minute process. So the first thing that they needed us to do with the tofu, we took it, we soaked it in salt water for 20 minutes. Then we took it out of that salt water, put it on some towels to drain really well, and then we tossed it in our cornstarch. So the next step for the tofu, once it's been tossed in your cornstarch, you're going to go ahead and put it out on a sheet pan and into your oven. You want to set your oven to 350 degrees, and it is going to take about 40 minutes for this tofu to actually get nice and crispy for us. The process of soaking the tofu in the salt water as well as draining it on that towel helps it to be, and putting it in the cornstarch helps it to become crispy. So we're going to go ahead and stick that in the oven for about 40 minutes, give or take. It might take a little bit longer, it might be a little less. They just want it nice and golden brown. So with that step out of the way, that step in your recipe is actually a little bit further down, but because it does need 40 minutes to cook, I wanted to get that in the oven before I started working on the other things in this recipe. So once that is in the oven, it asks you to go ahead and prepare your vegetables. In this recipe, we have red onion julienne, we have red pepper julienne, and we have kale roughly chopped. I have already done all of that behind the scenes here to save a little bit of time. So that is ready and prepared. And so then the next thing that they want us to do is make our sauce. Forgive me a second, I did not get a whisk out. So the sauce that we are making today has a soy sauce base. I already have the soy sauce here in the bowl ready to go. We also, in that bowl, we need to add our ginger. The ginger was minced. Oopsie. Let me just get that out of here. So we are going to add our minced ginger into that bowl for the sauce. We are also going to be adding a teaspoon of the garlic. This recipe did call for 3 teaspoons of garlic, so I am only going to put a small amount of the garlic that is in my prep into this bowl for the sauce. We also need to add the brown sugar. This recipe has been doubled from what is written on the paper, just so that you guys know. The initial recipe was due to serve only 2 people, so we doubled the recipe today to make sure that we have enough to serve everybody. Once the brown sugar goes in, we put in our crushed red peppers and a pinch of kosher salt. So I'm just going to do a slight sprinkle of that, which would be up 2 pinches due to doubling this recipe, and then a pinch of black pepper as well. So we're going to go ahead and put that in, whisk that up. And this sauce we are just going to let kind of marinate into itself while we move on to the next part of the recipe. We will probably be done with the next part of the recipe before the kale or the tofu is even ready for us. So once that is done, we are going to, like I said, just let it sit to the side and marinate there. The next step that we are going to move to is step 9, because we've already got our tofu in the oven and starting to roast. So we are going to move to step 9, and we are going to get a pan that is big enough to fit everything that we have. That one. All right, we are going to put this on, this is weird, a medium heat. We're going to go ahead and let that pan warm up a little bit before we add our sesame oil into the pot. Sesame oil is used a lot in Asian cooking and that sort of thing. If you do not like the taste of sesame oil, some people think it's too strong, you could choose to use a different oil of your own liking, but the point of the sesame in this recipe is so that that does infuse that sesame flavor into your recipe. So, forgive me, this is the first time I'm using this cooktop, so if I have to adjust things a little bit, that is the reason, because I am not completely familiar with the way that this particular range, I am a gas range type of gal at home, so that's why when I use these electric ranges, it takes me a little bit of getting used to on where to set the temperature, how to set the temperature, and that sort of thing. So again, we are going to let this heat up for a little bit before we start adding anything. The next step to this recipe is adding the garlic into the pot, but we are going to wait a few moments for it to get warmed up before we do that. Sorry, I don't know what to do or say in these weird spots.
Why did you select the recipe for today?
Honestly speaking, the reason I selected this particular recipe is because a couple weeks ago when we did our plant-based class, we did not have the best attendance. So we had some ingredients left over from that class that I wanted to utilize in this class so that we're not wasting ingredients. So honestly, there was no specific reason besides I put into my computer a recipe that contained this, this, and that, and then I went through the various recipes to see what would work well for this class. So that is really the only reason I did pick this recipe.
Hey, that's as good a reason as that.
All right, so our oil should be hot enough. Again, when you go to put things in, I guess it's not quite there. I'm gonna turn up the temperature a little bit more. I'm still gonna go ahead and put the garlic in since I've already started the process, but it does need a little more time to heat up. They want us to cook this garlic until it is brown and aromatic. Aromatic means you can start smelling it in the cooking process. So we're going to go ahead. Okay, there we go. Now we're starting to sizzle. As I've said in the past to you guys, if you are unsure if your oil is hot enough, throw a piece of your veggie or whatever that is going into that oil. If you hear that sizzle, then you know that your pan is hot enough and you can move on to your next step. Again, this time my pan was not as hot as I would like it, but now it's getting really hot. So again, I'm going to adjust this temperature. We're just going to let that garlic sit in there probably 2 to 3 minutes and cook, again, until it's brown and aromatic. After that happens, the next step we will be putting in our red pepper and our red onion and sauteing that up until it has a kind of golden brown to it as well. I don't know, something about sesame oil just smells so yummy to me. I don't use sesame oil very much, but just the smell of it makes me hungry.
Reminds me of college.
College?
Yeah.
Yeah? Did you eat a lot of Asian food in college?
It was the cheapest stuff around.
Cheap, easy to access. Probably one right there on the corner by the campus that you didn't have to go far.
It was a very short walk.
They know what they're doing when they strategically place the those restaurants. So it looks like our garlic is turning brown and I am starting to smell it. So the next step we are going to do is put in our onions. And our red peppers. We want to mix it around really good so that the vegetables are well coated in that oil. The recipe does not tell you how long to cook this, but it does say until the edges of your vegetables start to turn brown, which usually for peppers and onions takes maybe 5 to 8 minutes at most. So again, we're just going to be waiting for the peppers and onions to get cooked. Let me check my time. So far the the tofu has been roasted in the oven for only 10 minutes, so we do have another 30 minutes on that roasting process. Since that is going to get done, since this process will be done before we actually are done with the tofu, you can keep this pot on low to keep your things warm, so that everything when it comes together is warm. That way you're not eating cold vegetables with your warm tofu and that sort of thing. Are you guys all ready for Christmas?
Oh yeah.
Not at all. I've got some things done, but my birthday was yesterday, so thank you. I usually wait till my birthday is passed before I start putting up trees and things, because I would rather have a birthday and not feel like my birthday and Christmas are just one event. So, although I didn't really do much yesterday because me and my son were going to go out to dinner, but it started sleeting outside and stuff, and I was like, yeah, let's just stay inside. We ordered food and had a nice little dinner at home, so wasn't bad.
I'll send you a happy birthday.
Yeah, it's like when you get older, birthdays are kind of more for your kids than you. They're the ones that want to celebrate and all those sort of things. To me, it's just another day. I honestly thought I was turning 45 instead of 44, but turns out I'm only 44, so hey.
What exactly is tofu?
Tofu is made out of soybeans. It is typically used as a plant-based substitute for proteins like ground beef, chicken, any of those sort of things. You can find a way to make tofu work for that. I've had tofu burgers before, so it is just a plant-based substitute for a animal-based product, basically.
I've had a barbecue pulled pork tofu sandwich, and they didn't tell me until afterwards it was tofu, and I could not tell the difference.
And not that I like to be deceptive, but I always do that to my own children. I will feed them something like my youngest son swears he hates mushrooms. Well, we were down at Disney last year, and I was like, hey, you want to try some of these truffle fries? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, Mom, let's get more. They were so good. I said, do you know what a truffle is? And he said, no. I was like, you just ate mushrooms. So that's what I always tell people when they hear the words plant-based or vegan or something along those lines. They get scared. They think it's going to be gross. But if you know what you're doing, you know how to cook, you can make anything taste good. I mean, seriously speaking, I can't say that tofu is one of my preferred items that I would use in my kitchen at home. Have I used tofu a lot in my life as a chef? No, not at all. It is something, honestly, just recently I've started cooking with and trying to figure out the different uses for it, because more and more people are becoming health conscious and looking for plant-based menus rather than having animals in their cooking, so to speak. All right. Still a little bit longer. Some of it is starting to turn brown, but I think I went a little bit browner on the peppers and onions. They've been going for about 4 minutes, so I would say probably 2 or 3 more minutes to get the pepper and onion done. Any other questions or things you guys want to talk about food? No?
I just don't know.
I don't know either. sometimes I can sit here and I can just talk and talk and talk, and usually Tracy and her husband are good at helping me keep conversation going because they usually have some very good questions. But it's okay, we can just stand here and watch the pot cook, I guess. I guess I wouldn't feel so awkward if it wasn't for filming today. I feel like since we're filming, I've got to keep talking.
Yeah. I seen stinky tofu is like a delicacy or something.
Stinky tofu?
They fermented for like a couple months, and
I wonder if it's kind of like kombucha. I forgot the word that I'm trying to think.
I know
Kimchi,
yeah.
kind of like kimchi, where it's been fermented and sit. I honestly had no idea that stinky tofu was a thing.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll look into that. Maybe one day I'll start fermenting tofu and then bring it in here and cook with it and see how that turns out. I've never heard of stinky tofu before.
Yeah, Andrew Zimmerman, he eats some wild things, and he tried to bite and he couldn't stomach it, so.
I think I'm gonna just turn up the oven just a little bit to get that tofu crispy a little quicker for us. That way we're not waiting that whole 40 minutes. It's only been 16, so. All right, that's what we're looking for. If you can see inside the pot, you see how your onions and your peppers are nice and golden brown. Your garlic kind of is starting to get to that golden brown point as well. So the next step, I don't know what that noise was, sorry. The next step is to put the kale into the pot. It asks for a pinch of salt to go in as well. Again, I prefer kosher salt over table salt because it does not have, it's not as strong, I guess you would say. In the restaurant world, we call kosher salt the forgiving salt because it is a lot less easy to overuse the salt as a traditional table salt would be. So we are going to go ahead cook this kale just until it is in there and wilted. And again, this will not take a very long. I think what I'm going to do once this is wilted, we might go ahead and pull it off the heat because we still have about 20 more minutes on that roasting process of the tofu. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off the heat. It did ask for us to put in a tablespoon of the sauce that we made. Again, I did double this sauce and the veggies and whatnot, so we were going to put 2 tablespoons of the sauce into the recipe.
It smells good.
It does smell really good. Again, the tofu, I'm still trying to find a love for tofu. Again, I am fairly new to cooking and eating tofu, so for me, the last recipe that we did with tofu was really good though. It was a curry tofu, I want to say, and that one turned out really good. Everybody actually enjoyed it. I say actually, I'm sorry, I don't mean to use those type of words, but when you are cooking vegan, plant-based, sometimes